Frank Miller loved maps. As a junior xenocartographer at the Galactic Cartographic Institute, he spent his days studying stars, planets, and the vast empty spaces between them. The Institute made the best maps in the known universe. Every spacefaring species used these maps to find safe routes for their ships. But there was one section of space that always made Frank curious. It was marked with a bright red border and a simple warning label: Restricted Zone, no entry. Inside this zone was an ordinary yellow star with 8 planets. The third planet had blue oceans and green land. Unlike other dangerous areas on the maps, this zone had no explanation. Other dangerous places had notes like high radiation or unstable gravity or hostile species. This red zone just said no entry with no reason why. When Frank asked his supervisor, Diane Lewis, about it, she just shook her head. Some questions are better left unasked. Frank, she would say, and quickly changed the subject. This only made Frank more curious. He began to study old records and reports about ships that had traveled near the restricted zone. What he found was strange. Several ships had disappeared near that area over the years. When they reappeared months later, the crews acted differently. They seemed afraid but wouldn't talk about what they had seen. One night, Frank was working late in the mapping room. Everyone else had gone home. He noticed something odd about how the new maps were being made. The computer was automatically changing navigation data near the restricted zone. It was subtly altering star positions and gravity readings to ensure ships would never accidentally drift into the zone. Frank checked older maps and found the same pattern. The Institute wasn't just warning ships to avoid the area. It was actively steering all traffic away from it. This doesn't make sense, Frank muttered to himself. What could be so dangerous about an ordinary star system? He decided to dig deeper. In the Institute's oldest records, he found mentions of something called the incident. It had happened about 300 years ago in systems near the restricted zone. The records were vague, only saying that many ships and space stations had been damaged simultaneously across 17 star systems. Billions of people had died. Frank looked up from the old records. A chill ran down his spine. Whatever was in that zone, the Institute, the most respected mapping organization in the galaxy, was terrified of it. The next day, Frank was studying the latest sensor readings from the edge of the restricted zone when he heard excited voices in the hallway. His colleague, Sari, rushed into the room. Frank, did you hear the news? Scout Ship Horizon has disappeared near Section 42. Frank's heart beat faster. Section 42 was right at the edge of the restricted zone. Lisa Bennett was piloting that ship, Sari continued. She's one of our best scouts. How could she make such a mistake? Frank looked down at his screen showing the restricted zone. Maybe it wasn't a mistake, he said quietly. Maybe she wanted to know what's really in there. Well, we'll probably never find out, Sari said. No one who enters that zone ever comes back the same, if they come back at all. As Sari left, Frank made a decision. He would find the truth about this mysterious restricted zone, no matter what it took. Because something told him that whatever was hiding in that ordinary-looking star system was the biggest secret in the galaxy. And the most dangerous. Lisa Bennett stared at her ship's control panel in horror. The navigation system blinked with red warning lights. Something had gone very wrong. After 15 years as a deep space scout mapping distant stars for the Galactic Alliance, she knew when to worry. This was that time. Computer, what's happening? She asked, her fingers moving quickly over the controls. Navigation failure. Entering restricted zone in 5 minutes, the computer replied in its flat voice. Lisa's heart beat faster. The restricted zone. Every pilot knew to stay away from that area of space. It was marked with bright red warnings on all official maps. No one ever explained why it was dangerous, just that ships should never go there. She tried to change course, but nothing worked. The ship's engines sputtered, and she felt the pull of gravity from a nearby star system. A yellow star with several planets grew larger on her view screen. Computer, Send distress signal to Galactic Alliance Command, Lisa said, trying to keep her voice steady. Unable to comply. Communications blocked, the computer answered. Lisa took a deep breath. She would have to handle this alone. As her ship drifted deeper into the restricted zone, she prepared for the worst. What terrible thing awaited her here? Was it a deadly radiation field, a nest of space monsters, or something even stranger? To her surprise, her sensors picked up an artificial structure, a space station orbiting the third planet from the yellow star. Even more surprising, the station was sending her a message. Unidentified vessel, this is Earth Orbital Platform Delta. You've entered restricted space. Please identify yourself and state your intentions. Lisa almost fell out of her chair. The message was in perfect galactic standard language. But how? No species from this restricted zone had ever been part of the galactic community. They shouldn't know the language at all. This is Scout Ship Horizon, piloted by Lisa Bennett of the Galactic Alliance, she replied cautiously. My navigation system failed. I didn't mean to enter this space. There was a pause before the reply came. Scout Ship Horizon, we will guide you to our docking bay. Please follow our beacon. Lisa hesitated. Should she trust them? She had no choice. Her ship was damaged, and she needed repairs before she could leave. She followed the beacon signal to the orbital station. When she docked, she put on her environmental suit, not knowing if she could breathe the air. The airlock opened, and she stepped into the station. To her amazement, the gravity felt perfect. The air pressure seemed right too. A tall man in a blue uniform waited for her. He had short brown hair and a friendly smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Welcome to Earth Space, Scout Bennett. I'm Commander Alan Porter of the Earth Space Force. Lisa removed her helmet cautiously and found she could breathe normally. You speak Galactic Standard, she said, still amazed. Commander Porter nodded. We speak many languages. But how? Your world is restricted, cut off from the galaxy. Porter's smile faded. That's what they want everyone to think, isn't it? That we're isolated and primitive. Lisa didn't understand. The galactic maps mark this entire sector as restricted. No entry allowed. Tell me, Porter asked, do those maps explain why our space is restricted? Lisa shook her head. No, just that it's dangerous. Porter laughed without humor. Interesting choice of words. Please, follow me. There's someone you should meet. He led her through the station to a viewing area with a large window. Through it, Lisa could see the blue and green planet below. Earth, Porter said with pride. Home of humanity. But why would the galaxy isolate your people? Lisa asked. Porter turned to her, his face serious now. They didn't isolate us, Lisa Bennett. They isolated themselves from us. I don't understand, she said. You will, Porter promised. We're going down to Earth. Dr. Samantha Wright is waiting to meet you. She heads our Interstellar Relations Department. As Lisa followed Porter to a shuttle, her mind raced with questions. This space station was advanced. These humans weren't primitive at all. And somehow, they knew about the galaxy that had been avoiding them. The truth was becoming clear. Humanity hadn't been kept in the dark about the wider universe. The universe had been kept in the dark about humanity. And Lisa Bennett was about to find out why. The shuttle landed smoothly on a large platform outside a glass building. Lisa looked around in wonder. The city stretched far into the distance, with tall towers and flying vehicles moving between them. This planet was not just advanced. It was possibly more advanced than many worlds in the Galactic Alliance. This way, Commander Porter said, leading her inside. They walked through bright hallways where humans in different uniforms worked at screens filled with star maps and data. Many stopped to stare at Lisa. She realized she might be the first alien many of them had ever seen. They entered a large office with windows overlooking the city. A woman with gray hair stood up from behind a desk. She wore a white lab coat and had kind eyes behind simple glasses. Lisa Bennett, welcome to Earth. I'm Dr. Samantha Wright, head of Earth's Interstellar Relations Department. Lisa shook the woman's hand, still trying to process everything she was seeing. You have an interstellar relations department, but your world is supposed to be cut off from galactic society. Dr. Wright smiled. Please, sit down. I'm sure you have many questions. They sat in comfortable chairs while Porter stood by the door. We've known about the galactic community for over a century, Dr. Wright explained. We intercepted their communications, studied their technology, and yes, even captured a few scout ships that came too close to our system. Lisa felt a chill. You captured ships. What happened to their crews? They were treated well and returned to space near traveling lanes where they would be found, Dr. Wright said. But their memories were altered. They remembered only that they had seen something terrifying. But why? Lisa asked. Why has the galaxy marked your system as restricted? What threat do humans pose? It's not what we are, Dr. Wright said. It's what we've discovered. She pressed a button on her desk. Would you like to see? Lisa nodded, though she felt afraid. Dr. Wright led Lisa and Porter to an elevator that took them deep underground. They entered a large room filled with strange machines and busy scientists. In the center was a clear cube about 3 meters on each side. 70 years ago, we discovered something the rest of the galaxy had overlooked, Dr. Wright explained. A fundamental force that could be manipulated to change the basic laws of physics in a small area. Lisa didn't understand. Change physics? That's impossible. Dr. Wright nodded to a scientist who pressed some buttons on a control panel. The air inside the cube began to shimmer and change color. Watch, Dr. Wright said. A scientist placed a cup of water inside the cube through a small door. When he let go, the water didn't spill. Instead, it floated upward, defying gravity. Then, when Dr. Wright gave another signal, the water turned into a perfect sphere and began to glow with blue light. We can rewrite the rules of reality, Dr. Wright said simply. We call it localized reality manipulation. Inside that cube, we can change how matter behaves, how energy flows, even how time passes. Lisa felt her legs grow weak. That's not possible. The laws of physics are the same everywhere. That's what we thought too, Porter said. Turns out we were wrong. Dr. Wright nodded to the scientist again, and the water returned to normal, spilling onto the floor of the cube. About 200 years ago, one of our experiments went wrong, Dr. Wright continued. The effect spread beyond our control for just a few seconds. It reached 17 nearby star systems. The incident, Lisa whispered, remembering legends she had heard. Yes, billions died when reality itself changed for just a moment. It was a terrible accident. When we realized what had happened, we tried to contact the galactic community to explain and apologize. But instead of responding, they marked our entire system as restricted and warned everyone to stay away. Lisa stared at the cube, finally understanding. The galaxy wasn't keeping humans contained. They were keeping the rest of the galaxy safe from humans, or trying to. Now you know our secret, Dr. Wright said. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Lisa looked from the cube to Dr. Wright's face. What do you want me to do? Help us, Dr. Wright said. It's time for humanity to join the galaxy. And the galaxy needs to be ready for us. Lisa spent the next 2 weeks on Earth, learning about human history and culture. Dr. Wright assigned a young physicist named Kevin Daniels to show her around and answer her questions. Kevin had bright eyes and an excitement about him that seemed typical of many humans Lisa met. Your people advanced very quickly, Lisa said as they walked through a museum showing human history. Most species take thousands of years to go from basic tools to space travel. You did it in just a few hundred. Kevin nodded. We're impatient, I guess, always wanting to go faster, reach further. Lisa studied the displays showing human wars, technological breakthroughs, and cultural developments. Something stood out to her. Your progress wasn't steady like other species, she observed. You had big jumps forward, often during times of conflict. Competition drives us, Kevin explained. Sometimes in good ways, sometimes not. They moved to another section of the museum that showed early human space exploration. When did you first realize you weren't alone in the universe? Lisa asked. About 120 years ago. One of our space telescopes picked up signals that were clearly artificial. 10 years later, we captured our first alien scout ship. And that's when you learned about reality manipulation? Lisa asked. Kevin laughed. No, that came later. But studying alien technology helped us advance our own sciences much faster. After the museum, Kevin took Lisa to his laboratory. Unlike the impressive underground facility she had seen earlier, this was a smaller room with simpler equipment. This is where I work on basic reality manipulation studies, Kevin said. He pointed to a small device on a table. It looked like a metal box with glowing blue lines. May I? Lisa asked, reaching toward it. Sure, it's not active. Just a training model. Lisa picked up the device. It was lighter than she expected. How does it work? Kevin sat down and thought for a moment, as if deciding how to explain it simply. Most species discover that light has a maximum speed and think that's the end of the story, he said. We discovered that the rules themselves can be changed under the right conditions. He took the device from her and opened its top panel, showing a complex arrangement of crystals and tiny machines. The universe runs on probability fields, not fixed laws. Kevin continued. This device creates a bubble where we can change which probabilities are most likely. Lisa tried to understand. So inside that bubble, different rules apply. Exactly. We can make gravity work differently, change how atoms bond together, even adjust how time flows. Lisa felt a deep chill. In the hands of a peaceful species, such technology would be amazing. But humans, from what she had seen in the museum, had a history of using technology for both creation and destruction. Aren't you afraid of what this power could do? She asked. After the incident. Of course we are, Kevin interrupted. That's why we have strict controls now. Reality manipulation is limited to secure facilities and small areas. We've learned our lesson. Later that evening, Lisa joined Dr. Wright for dinner at her home, a beautiful house overlooking a lake. As they ate, Lisa asked the question that had been bothering her most. If humans have this power, why haven't you forced your way into galactic society? You could easily break through any blockade. Dr. Wright looked out at the lake, her face serious. Some humans wanted to do exactly that, but wiser heads prevailed. What do you mean? We're still debating what our place in the galaxy should be, Dr. Wright explained. Not everyone agrees that joining a civilization that fears us is in our best interest. Some think we should wait until the galaxy is ready for us. Lisa understood then. Humanity wasn't trapped in its restricted zone. It was waiting and watching, deciding what to do next. And the entire galaxy's future might depend on that decision. Back at the Galactic Cartographic Institute, Frank Miller couldn't sleep. For days, he had been studying old star charts, comparing them with newer versions. What he found disturbed him deeply. The restricted zone around human space wasn't static. It was growing. Frank spread the maps across his desk, marking the borders of the restricted zone from different time periods with colored lines. The pattern was clear. Over the past century, the crimson border had expanded by nearly 15 light years. This can't be right, he muttered to himself. But the evidence was undeniable. Something in that zone was reaching outward, testing the boundaries of its confinement. He needed to tell someone. Frank gathered his notes and charts and hurried to find senior cartographer Gregory Walsh, the oldest and most respected member of the Institute. He found Gregory in the archives, studying ancient navigation records. "Sir, I need to show you something urgent," Frank said, trying to keep his voice steady. Gregory looked up, his wrinkled face showing mild annoyance at being interrupted. But when Frank spread the charts on the table, the old cartographer's expression changed to one of grim recognition. "It's happening again," Gregory said quietly. "The incident is repeating." Frank felt his heart race. What incident? What do you know about the restricted zone? Gregory checked to make sure they were alone, then spoke in a low voice. 300 years ago, a research vessel made contact with the inhabitants of the third planet in that system. Humans, they call themselves. Frank nodded. But what happened? Why is the zone expanding? The exchange of knowledge triggered an explosive advancement in human technology. Gregory continued. They learned about the universe much faster than they should have. Then came what we now call the incident. Gregory pulled out an old data crystal from his pocket and inserted it into a reader. A hologram appeared, showing 17 star systems highlighted in red. Reality itself changed across these systems, Gregory said. For just a microsecond, the fundamental constants governing atomic cohesion shifted. The results were catastrophic. Frank watched in horror as the hologram showed planets cracking, space stations exploding, and ships coming apart. Billions died, Gregory said. Ships, stations, even planetary structures failed simultaneously, and it all traced back to experiments conducted by humans. But how could one primitive species affect reality across 17 systems? Frank asked. That's what makes them so dangerous, Gregory replied. They discovered something no other species had found, a way to alter the basic laws of physics. The incident was just their first attempt, an accident they couldn't control. Frank looked back at his charts, understanding now why the zone was expanding. They're trying again, aren't they? They're pushing outward. Gregory nodded. The Galactic Council established the restricted zone to contain them, to protect the rest of us. But humans never stop trying, never stop experimenting. Frank thought about Lisa Bennett, whose scout ship had disappeared near the restricted zone weeks ago. Had she encountered these humans? Was she even still alive? What can we do? Frank asked. Nothing, Gregory said sadly. We can only update our maps and warn ships to stay even further away. As they talked, an urgent message appeared on the archive communication screen. It was from the Galactic Council. All Cartographic Institute personnel. Scout Ship Horizon has reappeared at Waypoint Station 12. Pilot Lisa Bennett is alive and has returned with a passenger. Frank and Gregory looked at each other in shock. A human, Gregory whispered. She's brought one of them back. Frank felt a chill run down his spine. Whatever barrier had kept humanity isolated from the galaxy was breaking down, and no one knew what would happen next. The incident that had killed billions might have been just a preview of what was to come. Waypoint Station 12 was normally a quiet place where ships stopped to refuel and crews rested before continuing their journeys. But today it was surrounded by Galactic Council security vessels. Inside, the station commander had cleared the main hall for an unprecedented meeting. Lisa Bennett stood nervously as council representatives filed into the room. Behind her was Paul Carter, a tall human man wearing a simple blue uniform with a small Earth symbol on the shoulder. His calm face showed no fear, only curiosity as he looked at the different alien species entering the hall. "Are you sure about this?" Lisa whispered to him. Paul nodded. "It's time." The council representatives took their seats at a large curved table. 7 different species were represented, each watching the human with a mixture of fear and fascination. The head of the council, an elderly female Zeraxian with silver skin, spoke first. "Scout Bennett, you were reported missing 3 months ago after your ship disappeared near the restricted zone. Now you return with this." She gestured toward Paul. "Explain yourself." Lisa stepped forward. "Council members, I experienced a navigation failure that took my ship into human space. What I discovered there was not what any of us have been led to believe." Murmurs filled the room. "Humans are not primitive or isolated," Lisa continued. "They are advanced, knowledgeable about our galactic community, and wish to open peaceful communication." "Impossible," shouted a council member. "Remove this human immediately. Its presence endangers everyone on this station." Paul stepped forward despite the protests. His movement caused several security officers to raise their weapons. "I come in peace. He said in perfect galactic standard, "My name is Paul Carter, appointed ambassador from Earth. I request the opportunity to address this council." The room fell silent. The head of the council studied Paul carefully, then nodded. "We will hear you, human. But be warned, any sign of danger and our security forces will act." Paul smiled and walked to the center of the room. His voice was steady and clear as he spoke. "For centuries, you've avoided us, fearing what we might do. You've watched our broadcasts, studied our wars, and labeled us as dangerous." He paused, looking around the room. "You're not wrong. Humanity can be destructive, impulsive, and reckless." This honest admission surprised the council members. "But we're also curious, innovative, and capable of great compassion," Paul continued. "We've known about your galactic community for generations. We've observed, learned, and prepared for this meeting." He reached slowly into his pocket, causing security officers to tense, but he only removed a small device. "We don't want to conquer or control," Paul said. "We want to share. But sharing requires trust, and trust begins with honesty." He activated the device, which projected a holographic map of the galaxy above the council table. It showed details that made the council members gasp: hidden resources, safe travel routes, and hazards that weren't on any official map. "This is our offering. Knowledge freely given," Paul said. "We know what happened during the incident. We know the fear it caused. But it was an accident from early experiments, not an attack." The head of the council leaned forward. "How can we trust that such an accident won't happen again?" Paul nodded at the question. "Because now we understand our power better. We've developed safety protocols and containment systems, and we're offering to share them with you." He turned to the map again. Reality manipulation technology could transform dead worlds into habitable ones, create stable wormholes for instant travel, and solve energy problems across the galaxy. The council members looked at each other, uncertain. "We don't ask you to trust us immediately," Paul said. "We ask only for a chance to prove ourselves as partners, not threats. The restricted zone around our space was your creation, not ours. We've respected it even though we could have broken through at any time." This last statement sent another shock through the room. "What happens next," Paul finished, "is up to all of us." The room was silent as the council members considered his words. The future of galactic relations hung in the balance. 5 years passed since Paul Carter's historic address to the Galactic Council. Frank Miller stood at the large window of his new office, looking out at the Earth Galactic Joint Research Station that orbited near the edge of what used to be the restricted zone. As the newly appointed director of collaborative cartography, Frank never imagined his career would take such a turn. The crimson warning borders that once marked human space on galactic maps were gone. In their place was a region now called the Human Cooperative Zone, an area where ships could travel freely, but with a simple note that physics research might occur in certain areas. "Director Miller, your guests have arrived," his assistant said through the intercom. Frank turned as the door opened. Lissa Bennett entered, now wearing the uniform of an ambassador captain. Behind her came Kevin Daniels, the human physicist she had met during her first visit to Earth. "Welcome to the station," Frank said, shaking their hands. "The new maps are ready for review." They gathered around a large table where a holographic display showed the latest version of the galactic map. It was unlike anything that existed before humans joined the galactic community. "These aren't just location maps," Kevin explained, his eyes bright with excitement. "They're probability maps. They show not just where things are, but what they might become." Frank nodded. "We've combined human reality manipulation theories with traditional galactic cartography. The result is a map that can predict how regions of space might evolve over time." Lisa studied the map carefully. "This will revolutionize exploration and settlement planning." "It already has," Frank said. "Using these maps, we've identified 12 dead worlds that could be transformed into habitable planets. The terraforming process that used to take centuries can now be completed in decades using controlled reality manipulation." Not everyone in the galaxy was happy about the new human-galactic partnership. Some species still avoided human space entirely. There had been protests when the first joint reality manipulation project was announced, and occasional incidents of reality fluctuation caused widespread alarm. There's still fear, Lisa acknowledged. Change never comes easily. True, Kevin said. But look at what we've accomplished together. He pointed to a section of the map showing a newly created stable wormhole between two distant systems. Travel time reduced from 3 months to 3 minutes. The station's intercom chimed. Director Miller, the council transmission is ready. They moved to the communication area where a large screen showed the Galactic Council chamber. Today was an important day. The official adoption of the new mapping system by all galactic species. The head of the council addressed the assembled representatives. Today marks 5 years since we ended the isolation of human space. While concerns remain, the benefits of cooperation have become clear. These new probability maps will guide our exploration for generations to come. After the transmission ended, Frank, Lisa, and Kevin walked back to the window. Below them, ships from a dozen different species moved freely through space that once was forbidden. When I first discovered that the restricted zone was expanding, I was terrified, Frank admitted. I thought it meant humans were becoming more dangerous. In a way, you were right, Kevin said with a small smile. Our reach was growing, but not to threaten, to connect. Lisa looked out at the stars. In my report about first contact with Earth, I wrote something that the Council has finally come to understand. The most terrifying aspect of humanity isn't their ability to rewrite the laws of physics. It's their ability to imagine that such a thing is possible in the first place. Frank nodded. Their greatest strength is not what they can do, but what they can envision doing. As they watched, a human ship and an alien vessel passed each other, exchanging the new standard greeting lights. No longer were there warning buoys or restricted zone markers. The galaxy was learning to live with its most unusual members, and the universe was larger and more full of possibilities than anyone had imagined before.